point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.
Don't know why the military aircraft came into the path of the PSA aircraft.
Video shows the moment an American Airlines plane and a military helicopter collided.
Please remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, share, comment. Some real sad news to report. An American airline passenger jet collides mid-air with a Black Hawk military training helicopter. It is said that over 60 passengers were on board. Our sincere condolences to family members, friends, and well-wishers of those who perished in this crash. Take a listen to these reports.
Video shows the moment an American Airlines plane and a military helicopter collided mid-air last night in Washington, D.C. Right there, you see the moment. That vantage point from Reagan National Airport, that is where the American Airlines flight was attempting to land before the collision above the Potomac.
D.C.'s fire chief says the rescue mission in the Potomac River has now turned to a recovery operation.
At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.
Earthcam video shows the moment a commercial passenger jet and an Army helicopter collided in midair just before 9 p.m. near Reagan National Airport outside Washington, D.C.
Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river.
Video obtained by CBS News shows what air traffic controllers would have seen. The Black Hawk at the top of the screen appears to move directly in the path of the jet operated by PSA Airlines.
We don't know why the military aircraft came into the path of the PSA aircraft.
As the investigation into the crash continues, the big question now is, who is to be blamed? Later on in this video, listen to President Donald Trump as he questions and also gives his theory on what happened.
President Donald Trump is pushing for an explanation.
We'll find out how this disaster occurred and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again.
The Army says the Black Hawk helicopter was on a training flight with 3 service members on board. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said on social media that the DoD is actively investigating.
It was a fairly experienced crew, and it was doing a required annual night evaluation.
This is the first major commercial crash in the United States in around 16 years. Officials are hoping the black box flight recorder helps investigators figure out what happened.
Anytime you have 2 airplanes close together, they will then go to visual separation. The real question, of course, is why did that visual separation break down to this disaster that we have right now?
Who is the blood? Who is the blood?
Watch now as air traffic controllers communicate with each other regarding the crash.
Did you see that? 472. American 3130, go around, turn left in 250, climb maintain 3000. Black Check 3, can you return to base? Black Check 3, proceed directly to Glebe. I need you to land. I need you to land immediately. Can you go to Dulles for a few minutes? Okay, Musk 13. I need to have you exit the airspace. Can you go to Andrews? Black Check 3, do you have any kind of like search light or maybe anything on board that would help shed some light at the east end of the field? Yeah, when you get to South Cab, you're going to see a lot of trucks on the east end of the field. You'll be met with Black Check 1. If there's any way you can assist, let me know. If you're unable to do the fuel or any kind of equipment limitations, let me know. But if there's any way you can assist, let us know. Delta 832, if you want to shut them down or if you want to go back to gate, let me know. I don't know if we're going to resume operations in the near future. It might be about 30 or 40 minutes. Delta 832, sorry. I don't know if you caught earlier what happened, but there was a collision on the approach in the 33. We're going to be shutting down operations for the indefinite future. If you want to go back to the gate, highly suggest you guys coordinate with the company. Let me know what you want to do.
All right, we'll let the company talk to them right now. Yeah, we witnessed the whole thing. The information from us.
Okay, not quite yet, but just remain on frequency, and I'll give you a phone number here in a second.
All right, thanks.
Been listening right now to WTTG. We're now taking over to show you this. This is video from the Kennedy Center camera, and you see that explosion right there. That is the moment when this small plane apparently crashed into a helicopter. You see a fireball, and then, Marla, we see that plane head down towards the Potomac River.
Oh, what an image there. And according to our sister station in D.C., WTTG, that in fact is confirmed that a small aircraft collided with a helicopter. They were hearing that it is not a D.C. police helicopter, and colleagues on the ground say that several people were saying that it was a military helicopter. That information is not confirmed, but according to our sister station in D.C., Fox 5 there, they have confirmed that it is a helicopter and a small aircraft that has collided. Again, this is courtesy of the Kennedy Center, the moment of impact.
Yeah, we can do 33 for Blue 6342.
Proceed for 342. That's Wilson Bridge. Thanks for runway 33, runway 33, clear to land.
Here now as President Trump gives his opinion on exactly what caused the collision.
We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now. Because over the years I've watched as things like this happen, and they say, well, we're always investigating, and then the investigation 3 years later, they announce it. We think we have some pretty good ideas, but we'll find out how this disaster occurred, and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. The FAA and the NTSB and the U.S. military will be carrying out a systematic and comprehensive investigation. Our new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, his second day on the job when that happened. It's a rough one. We'll be working tirelessly. He's a great gentleman. The whole group these are great people, and they are working tirelessly to figure out exactly what happened. We will state certain opinions, however. I'm also immediately appointing an acting commissioner to the FAA, Christopher Rocheleau, a 22-year veteran of the agency, highly respected. Christopher, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence, and we didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. So as you know, last week, long before the crash, I signed an executive order restoring our highest standards for air traffic controllers and other important jobs throughout the country. So it was very interesting. About a week ago, almost upon entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers, and others, by the way. Then my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. They have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. But we'll restore faith in American air travel. I'll have more to say about that. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people that are, I mean, actually their lives are shortened because of the stress that they have. Brilliant people have to be in those positions, and their lives are actually shortened, very substantially shortened, because of the stress, where you have many, many planes coming into one target, and you need a very special talent and a very special genius to be able to do it. Targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruitment and hiring. The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway. The initiative is part of the FAA's Diversity and Inclusion Hiring Plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's Diversity and Inclusion Hiring Plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite. The FAA website shows that the agency's guidance on diversity hiring were last updated on March 23rd of 22. They wanted to make it even more so. And then I came in, and I assume maybe this is the reason. The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He's run it right into the ground with his diversity. So I had to say that it's terrible. Then it's a group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration just prior to my getting there. And we took care of African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We took care of everybody at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's one of the reasons I won. But they actually came out with a directive, too white. And we want the people that are competent. But now we mourn and we pray, and would like to ask all Americans to join me in a moment of silence as we ask God to watch over those who have lost their lives and bring comfort to the loved ones. And I just want to say God bless everyone in this room. This has been a terrible, very short period of time. We'll get to the bottom of it. So we all saw the same thing. We've seen it many times. I've had the honor of hearing tapes. Tapes are scary, very scary tapes. You had a airliner coming in, American Airlines. He was doing everything right. He was on track. He was the same track as everybody else. They came in. It's probably the same track as they've had for 25 years or more. He's coming in the path. And for some reason, he had a helicopter that was at the same height, obviously when they hit, but pretty much the same height, and going at an angle that was unbelievably bad. When the air traffic controller said, "Do you see?" You know, he was talking about, "Do you see him?" But there was very little time left when that was stated. And then also, he said, follow him in. And then almost immediately after that, seconds after that, there was the crash that took place. Well, you follow him in, that means like everything's fine. Follow him in. You had a pilot problem from the standpoint of the helicopter. I mean, because it was visual. It was a very clear night. It was cold, but clear, and clear as you could be. The American Airlines plane had lights blazing. They had all of their landing lights on. I could see it from the Kennedy Center tape. We had a tape up on the Kennedy Center. That seems to be the primary. Thus far, I'm sure we'll see other tapes because it's such an area where there are a lot of cameras looking up into the air, into space. So we'll probably see many other shots of it before too much time goes by. But we had a situation where you had a helicopter that had the ability to stop. I have helicopters. You can stop a helicopter very quickly. It had the ability to go up or down. It had the ability to turn. And the turn it made was not the correct turn, obviously. It did somewhat the opposite of what it was told. We don't know that would have been the difference because the timing was so tight. It was so little. There was so little time to think. But what you did have is you had vision. The helicopter had vision of the plane because you had vision of it all the way, perfect vision of it all the way from at Kennedy Center where the tape was taken. And for some reason, there weren't adjustments made. Again, you could have slowed down the helicopter substantially. You could have stopped the helicopter. You could have gone up. You could have gone down. You could have gone straight up, straight down. You could have turned. You could have done a million different maneuvers. For some reason, it just kept going and then made a slight turn at the very end, and by that time it was too late. They shouldn't have been at the same height, because if it was at the same height, you could have gone under it or over it, and nobody realized, or they didn't say that it's at the same height. At the same height, it still wouldn't have been great, but you would have missed it by quite a bit. Could have been 1,000 feet higher. It could have been 200 feet lower. But it was exactly at the same height, and somebody should have been able to point that out. So all of this is going to be studied, but it just seems to me, from a couple of words that I like to use, the words common sense, some really bad things happened, and some things happened that shouldn't have happened. So you had a helicopter going in identical direction. You had a helicopter that was at the exact same height as somebody going in essentially the opposite direction. You had a plane that was following a track, which is a track that every other plane followed. And I don't imagine, I know I've heard today that they might have been following the preceding plane, which was pretty close, but not that close, the preceding plane. But you wouldn't have even been able to see that because of the direction that the helicopter was coming in at. So you had a confluence of bad decisions that were made, and you have people that lost their lives, violently lost their lives. We're going to take a few questions. I'd like to ask our new Secretary of Transportation to say a few words. Sean Duffy, great gentleman, just started. It's not your fault, and I know you agree with me very strongly on intellect and even psychological well-being of the air traffic control. It's such an important position, and I think I can't emphasize stronger. I changed it when I first ran in 2016. I changed it. We had the highest standard that you could have, and then they changed it back. That was Biden, to a standard I read it to you. That was from one of your papers. One of the people in this room actually wrote that. And then I changed it back a few days ago. And unfortunately, that was, we'll see. We don't know that necessarily it's even the controller's fault. But one thing we do know, there was a lot of vision, and people should have been able to see that, at what point do you stop? At what point do you say, wow, that plane's getting a little bit close? So this is a tragedy that should not have happened. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would just note the President's leadership has been remarkable during this crisis. We've had a whole of government response, local, state, federal.
According to President Trump, the helicopter pilot seems to be the one to be blamed, along with the Obama and Biden administration, for the implementation of DEI. Feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below, and also bear in mind that this is a very sad situation and we have grieving family members and friends.